another episode of Tim's Little Garden. Now, most certainly in Britain, most gardens have a lawn. There's very few that don't have a lawn, and obviously if you've got a lawn you need to have some kind of lawnmower. And it's true to say with a lot of things really, you know, if you look at cars or, you know, sort of machines and all sorts of and devices, you know, if you go back sort of into the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, that's, you know, the lawnmowers that were made then, by far, you know, the majority of the ones that were made are still going today really. You know, if you look after things, you know, they will last, but most certainly the lawnmowers that you get today, you know, within sort of 2, 3, 4 years, you know, you know, they're tired and they need to be replaced. So, and I think it's a really, you know, it's the manufacturer. If you make something which lasts forever, you'll soon go out of business. So obviously you know, the lawnmowers that you buy today will, you know, only last you sort of 5, 6, 7 years, you know, and you most certainly will need to start to think about replacing it or whatever after that time. But this next few clips, I've been doing up a few lawnmowers, and I just wanted to share that with you. Obviously, you know, there aren't that many places that can do old lawnmowers now, and so it's worthwhile understanding the skills yourself, so you can keep the things running. There's two lawnmowers. There's one that's a barrel type. Obviously, the cutter goes that way, which is more, you know, the more traditional one with like a roller at the back of it. And a lot of these, there's a lot of different makes out there. They're all pretty much the same thing. But I just want to show you sharpening the blade and setting the blade. You know, so if you've got a lawnmower, you can do it for yourself. The second lawnmower, I'm not sure if it'll be in this video, but the second lawnmower is you know, like a hover mower type one, so the blade goes round that way. And you know, there's some maintenance on there as well. And the one that I've got, the front wheels are a little, you know, got a reasonable amount of play in it, and as you're pushing it forward, the wheels tend to go out like that, which makes it difficult to push. So I'm going to be putting some strengthening bars on there just to sort of keep the wheels straight, if you like. And this is obviously a modification from what the original design was, but you find that the actual body of them are pressed steel, and it is a design flaw really. But after a bit, you know, you get this play in the bolts and also in the body, and you know, and you get the wheels kind of sort of going in and out, which makes for, you know, difficult to mow the lawn with. So I just want to show you a few clips of me updating that with a strengthening sort of tracking bar, if you like, at the front, just to help. And then I'm also going to be sharpening the blades on both lawnmowers. Okay, so here's a lawnmower, and basically it's not cutting very well, and what I want to do is basically sharpen these blades so that it acts against the bottom. If I lift the lawnmower up, as you see, there's this plating along the bottom here, and this is how most of the barrel type lawnmowers work. Now if you look here, that's the cutting edge there, and as you can see, there's about kind of 5mm gap here. That should be absolutely tight up like it is here. So what I'm first going to do is just take off this bar here, and so we can readjust it. And what I'm going to do is also sharpen this blade here, so that this edge here is nice, and so this basically edge here is quite sort of sharp, if you like. So the first thing to do is to obviously take this bar off here, so I can actually get at the blade. And then what I'll be doing is, just without removing the blade, what I'm going to do is just take an angle grinder along here, just to clear up this edge, so that I've got a good edge on here to start with, and then obviously I can work on the plate at the bottom. So I'll do that now. Okay, so this bar here, I've just taken the nuts off both sides, but unfortunately that won't come out. I thought the thread went through into the bar, but in fact it doesn't. So what I've done is I've taken the roller off the front, so I've exposed the blade here, and now with the angle grinder, what I'm going to do is just take off the face here, just to make sure I've got a kind of a sharp edge on the bevel there, and I'll do that all the way around. But before I do that, what I want to do is take this plate off at the bottom, because that's the plate that this blade acts against, and obviously this is the bit that I need to reset. So what I want to do is take out these two nuts at the bottom here to remove this plate, and then I'll be able to straighten this plate up and clean it, and then I can get it back on to see how that interacts with the blade, because basically that's the face there that's cutting the grass. And so obviously that's the bit there that needs almost zero clearance. And if you look at this side here, it's actually catching here. And at this side here, it's obviously it's almost, if you look there, it's kind of almost 5mm gap in between there. So so what I'll do is I'll take off this plate, so I can then start to clean this blade up, make sure I've got a nice straight line along here with the angle grinder, and then I can start to sort this plate out to the bottom, so I'll get a nice cutting edge. Okay, so I've removed the plate at the bottom. It's basically held on with these two bolts which had seized, so I've managed to unseize them just by sort of turning them round, and I've actually got the little bits out. So if you imagine, that's underneath like that, and then these bits kind of sit in there, then the bolt goes through there into the underneath of here to pull the plate up. So obviously that's the bit that was going wrong. But whilst we've got this apart, what I'm going to do is very quickly clean this up, get all that nice and clean, and then obviously sharpen the blade as I've explained, and then start to reassemble it and see if I can readjust it so that it's actually cutting correctly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is clean up this blade as I've explained. Well, basically what I'm going to do is, with the angle grinder, I'm just going to take the angle grinder down like that, whilst I'm turning the blade with the other hand. The other hand's here, turning the blade around like that, obviously making sure that I'm nowhere near the angle grinder, obviously safety first, down like that. And that's basically going to put an edge on the blade here, so it'll be nice and clean. So I'll do that now in the next clip. So there you can see the edges of the blade, and obviously that's the actual cutting edge there, because as that comes down, that will go onto this plate and basically cut. So basically what you need to have is a sort of sharp edge there. So as that comes down, it traps the grass between that part there and this part here, and obviously cuts it through. So now I've got the blade cut down so it's nice and smooth, and it's got a sharp edge. And basically what you need to do is make sure that as you're going down with the angle grinder, as I've just shown, what you need to do is make sure that the angle grinder stays at the same angle and you're cutting it at the same distance. So if you imagine if you're grinding it there, what you need to do is make sure that as you work along, you're working at the same level. And so what you'll end up with is, as you turn the blade round, you'll end up with the same angle all the way down. If the angles change as you're cutting down, what will happen is you'll basically put a different angle bevel, and basically what you want is it all to be the same, and that's basically at right angles with this as it comes down, or just slightly right angles. So what I'll do now is I'll just clean this up. All I've done with this is basically just wire brushed it, got all the grass off it and stuff, all the nastiness if you like. And all I'm going to do now is basically just take there's a bit of an edge formed there where the blade's been rubbing over it over the years, so I'm just going to take that off. Likewise on the other side, take that off, and then I'm just going to quickly lineage along there, so I've got a nice flat clean edge to interface with the blade on here. So I'll show you me doing that now. Okay, so the plate is going to fit back up inside here, like that, and obviously that's now going to generate the cutting edge here. So as the blade turns around, the blade's going to act along here. So before you put anything back together, obviously these are the bolts that are going to go through here. What's always an idea is to get yourself some oil and just oil up the bolt. So you don't need to have too much, but most certainly what you want to do is, you know, if you ever want to take the lawnmower apart in future, what you want to do is make sure you've got some oil on there, and then it'll freely release next time. So now I've got some oil on there. If you haven't got oil, put some grease or something like that. But I always find oil's a bit better with lawnmowers. So that now goes up inside there, as you can see. That just holds inside there, and then I can now start to bolt that back up in there. So I'm only just going to gently sort of nick that up. Now obviously I want to put the bolt in here, so just hold that there a second. Again, apply some oil to the bolt. You don't want too much, you just want enough, so it'll release again next time you do it. Make sure you've got oil on the threads. That's the most important bit. And obviously this bolt's going to be acting against this as well, so you need to make sure there's the oil between the bolt and that. So there's the oil bolt, and I can now put that back up inside here. Okay, so now what I've done is I've straightened this plate. Now, even though I've straightened the plate, as you can see now, that doesn't catch on there, so that's looking pretty good. We're looking at the gap here. That's about a millimetre clearance there, or sort of 39 thou. So what I need to do is now look at this end, and as you can see, there's still a gap there. And basically, what the problem is this shaft in the middle there is too high at this end. So what I need to do now is, if I can just bring that up, as you can see at the top now, what I've got is these adjusting screws here and here. Now this one's got the wrong screw in it, so what I'm going to do first of all is take the screw out altogether and make the top of it round, so it'll go actually inside there, because that's one of the problems. And then this one here just needs to be adjusted again. So first thing I'm going to do is take this bolt out here and round the top off, so it'll go inside this casting, just like this one. And I'll put it back in, and I'll show you the blade adjusted. Okay, so now I've, as you can see, I've basically rounded that bolt off and cleaned it up a little bit. Now that will basically spin round inside there, which is exactly what it should do. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of oil, just basically get the muck out of the hole, and I'm just going to put a little bit of oil down in there. Just get the screwdriver and just get some grass in there. And what I'm going to do now is basically just put the bolt back down in there. And what this will do is this whole shaft is basically sprung loaded. So the springs at the bottom, and then these bolts at the top here, they act to basically push down. Now, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but the blade is actually dropping now. So if you look at this part here, that's actually going down. And all you need to do now is just adjust that down until the blade touches this bit at the bottom. Now, as you can see, just bring the camera a little bit closer. As you can see there, we've still got a little bit of clearance there. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust the blade down slightly further. Just give it another couple of turns. Now, as you can see now, the blade is pretty well just about touching that. So that's nice cutting edge along there. I'm just going to give it one more quarter turn. So now, yeah, that's just starting to catch. So that's good. Now, as I get to this back end here, just move it along so you can see. Now, as I get to this back end here, obviously what I want to do now is adjust this side of the blade. Now there, the plate is still slightly bent there, even though I've straightened it as much as I possibly can do. But it's just starting to catch there, perhaps a little bit more than I'm happy with. So I'm just going to I'm actually going to loosen this side off slightly so it doesn't catch. Now if you look now, if I just hold the camera so you can see what I'm looking at here, is if I start at this end, so as you can see there, that's not catching now. So there's no, you can actually hear the blade going through, but obviously you can't hear it actually catching the metal. Then we get to this end, that's about as close as I can get it without it catching on the metal. So that's effectively the blade set. This plate was slightly bent, however I checked the geometry of it, and it's as basically as straight as I can possibly get it. This side here is slightly high, and obviously it's hit a rock. There's a couple of witness marks here where I think it's hit a rock in the past, but basically that blade is now going up against that quite nicely, and so that's basically what you're looking for, that cutting edge going all the way along, and as less clearance as you can possibly get it. And what you need to do is go round the blade and check that every one has got the same kind of clearance on there, which they all seem to have. So now what we'll do is we'll put it all back together and try it on a bit of grass to see how we get on. So this is the second lawnmower I'm going to have a look at, and the back wheels are on an axle, so they always stay straight, but as you can see these wheels are towing out there, so this basically needs to be brought in, and so these wheels are actually straight. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but if I step back, the wheels are actually coming out like that. They're kind of towing out, so what I need to do is bring these in. And the way to do that, I'm going to cut this a bit of steel out of this. It's just some angle line, 1-inch angle line. I'm going to cut it in. I'm going to cut that piece off there, so I end up with just a strip of metal, and bring that out like that. And then with a bar going across the front here, what that's going to do is basically pull the wheels in, so the wheels are actually straight, and then it'll mow correctly. You know, in a sort of a straight line. So the first thing to do is I'm actually going to try and do this without taking the wheels off. The reason being is I want to make sure the wheels are straight when I weld it all together. So what I'm going to do is just grind down that face there so I can weld onto there, and grind down there onto that face there. Obviously these are plastic wheels, so I need to be mindful of that. Quickly tack those on here and here, so they're in, you know, sort of level with this plate here, and then by forcing the two wheels to be straight, what I can do then is, by loosening off the bolts behind here, I can pull the wheels straight so they're actually in a line, weld in the bar at the front here so that it keeps them in alignment, and then what I can do then is tighten up the bolts at the back again. With anything like this, obviously if you're using an angle grinder or U-welds or anything like that, obviously you've got a petrol tank just here. So what I suggest you do is, if you've got a petrol lawnmower, obviously an electric one you don't need to worry about, obviously don't have it plugged in at the time, but if you do have a petrol lawnmower, put something over, just a cloth over the lawnmower, and don't do it inside, so if anything does catch on fire, you know, you can quickly pull the cloth off or whatever, so you haven't got any fire on the you know, the sort of the petrol can, because obviously that's, you know, potentially dangerous. But I'll show you doing that now step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out the two strips out of this bit of angle line, and going across from side to side is going to be this bit of box section steel. So that I'm going to cut that obviously to length when I've got the other two bits on. So first thing I need to do is cut that down at 70mm, and I'm going to cut along like that, and then cut down, and I'm just going to be doing that with the angle grinder. Obviously do it with a actual cutting disc on, which is a nice narrow cutting disc, and I'll show you me doing that now. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut through, I don't know if you can see, but there's like a hole the way along. Basically that was just cutting in like that with the angle grinder. So what I've done now is I've separated this part here, and all I need to do is measure along 70cm and cut through that way. Okay, so there are the two pieces of metal there. What I've done is I've put them together so obviously they both end up being the same. Now I've taken off the corners because obviously this is going to be protruding out the front, and obviously I don't want anybody to hurt themselves, even though the wheel will be next to them. But as you can imagine, that's going to be welded on like that. So what I wanted to do was just take off obviously the corners, which will be sort of protruding out. And what I've also done as well is taken off the edges so I can weld clearly onto it. This sort of grainness here, that's the carbon coming out of the steel, or the iron if you like, and obviously that's not going to weld on very easily. So what I've done is with the angle grinder I've just cleaned up the edges so I can get a nice clean weld onto that when I've got it on the lawnmower. Now the wheels being splayed out is actually caused by the this sort of pressed steel case on here, and basically because there's only one point of sort of contact if you like, this is obviously where it pivots. So what I want to do is bring the wheels into alignment. So what I'm going to do is just undo the bolt at the back here. Hello Dorothy. Just undo the bolt at the back there. There's two 17mm bolts holding it in, and then I can basically adjust the wheels so that they'll, I can get these in alignment for welding them together. Okay, so what I've done now is I've loosened off the bolts. As you can see now the wheels have become loose, and obviously that's the way they need to be, like that. Likewise with this side, obviously I need to bring that in a little bit. So the plates are actually going to protrude out kind of like that. So what I've done is I've just taken off the paint there so I can get a weld onto it. And so what I'm going to do is weld the plate so it's in parallel with that there. And obviously these two plates are identical, so because that's round and this is straight, when that goes on like that, obviously what I'll do is I'll build up the top and the bottom with weld. So what I'm going to do is tack it on, make sure it's in the right place, obviously tap it into position if it's not, and then as soon as I've got it in position I'll be able to finish the weld off and just do a couple of runs up there to make sure it's nicely welded on. Obviously I need to be mindful that it doesn't get too hot because of the wheel, so what I'm going to do is just get a jug of water so I can just pour some water over it to cool it down quicker, so that it doesn't start to melt the wheel. But as I say, I'm leaving the wheel on so I can tell that the thing's actually straight, and I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'll show you that when it's finished. Okay, so there the plates welded in. As you can see they're nice and straight, and also it's worth noting that what I did was welded that one in there. Now that was 13 centimetres off the ground at that point there, and then I did exactly the same on the other side, so I know that the two are actually aligned with each other. And so obviously what I can do now is pull that wheel in and pull this one in like that to align them. And basically what I'm going to do is basically just put a piece of string from there to there just to pull these two pieces in, and then I can start to measure the bar to go along the front. Okay, so what I've done now is I've just tied a piece of string from this one to this one and put a nail in the middle, and then twisted it round until basically both wheels are in alignment with each other. And obviously there's the nail there, look, and you just twist it round, put the nail on its side, twist it round until the wheels are perfectly in alignment. Yep. And then what I can do now is measure the distance from there to there and then cut the piece of bar. So what I'm going to do is this piece of bar here, that's basically going to weld in. Just get the jug out of the way. Put that bar in across there, and so it'll act as two things. One is like a bumper, and two is to keep the wheel straight. So what I need to do basically now is just cut that off there and then weld that piece of bar in across the top. One quick point, obviously, as I said, make sure you've got the engine covered. I've just got an old pillowcase on there, so if there's any sparks or anything like that, it's not going to go anywhere near the fuel tank. Okay, so now I've cut the piece of bar to size, so as you can see that will fit in there along the side, and what I've done is just beveled the edge so I can weld into that bevel there. So that's basically going to fit on like that. So what I'll do is I'll weld, just tack it on each end. Note there's a bit of play, you want a bit of play in there so there's a gap to weld into. So I've cut it about 1 millimetre or so short of what I needed. So I'm just going to weld that on there and on the other side, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's welded. Okay, so there you go, there's the welding around there and on this side, and I've welded it all the way around all four sides. As you can see now, the wheels are attached to each other. So what I can do now I've got that welded on, is tighten up the bolts again at the back, and then the wheel should be perfectly lined straight, and obviously we've got a little kind of bumper bit at the front as well. So there you go, there's the wheels all straightened up, tightened up and everything. So that's nice and tight now, as you can see. That's absolutely rigid, and that's the setting that I always keep it at anyway, so I don't typically mess with the heights, to be honest with you, but that's perfectly straight, and it'll do. This wheel's slightly tapered in like that, but that's actually wear and tear on the wheel as opposed to anything else. So just moving on to the blade. Obviously the blade is sitting underneath, there's the blade there. So what I'm going to do now is just take that off so we can have a look at the state of that and potentially sharpen it. So all I need to do is put a 17mm spanner in the middle there on the bolt, and remove the blade. Now what I recommend you do when you do this is make sure you've not got a full tank of fuel, because you've got a vent at the top of the tank. I've actually waited till this was empty to do this, because if you tip the lawnmower up whilst you're taking the blade on and off, you can get petrol pouring all over the place. And another thing is as well, as soon as you've done this, as soon as you've had it up on its side or whatever, sit the lawnmower in its normal position for sort of 5-10 minutes afterwards, so all of the engine oil will seep back into the sump at the bottom before you start it. Okay, so there's the blade. As you can see, over the year, you will hit stones and stuff like that, so you get these like nicks in there. So all I'm going to do is just take the angle grinder up the edge there, and just take the edge off there. And obviously that's the cutting edge there. And then obviously if we turn it round, that's obviously going to be the other cutting edge there. So I'm just going to sharpen that up with the angle grinder now. Okay, so this is the blade from underneath, and basically just use a spanner, obviously, undo the centre bolt. Like that. It will eventually come out. Then obviously the blade just comes off like that, and as you can see, I've cleaned the blade up, both cutting edges, so that's nice and clean. So basically all I need to do is basically put the blade back on there. Return the bolt in there. Then obviously that bolts into the drive shaft going down onto the blade. Make sure the blade's nice and tight. Obviously what you don't want it to do is spin round, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I've got all of that finished. Obviously got a nice sharp blade, and this strengthening bar at the front, which is going to hold the front wheels tight. This is going to make the lawnmower a lot easier to use, and a lot more controllable. So the only thing left to do really now is I'm going to try it out on the lawn, make sure it all cuts correctly, and then what I'll do is I'll just give this a quick coat of black paint to stop it from rusting in the future, and we're all done. So I hope this episode of Jim's Lawnmower Garden has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and thank you to all of the subscribers for supporting the channel, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Lawnmower Garden.